always the whiteboard.
Hi everyone, finally back home after 2 weeks in the US and then immediately going to Indiecon. And for anyone else thinking of coming back from a long haul flight and going straight away to a convention, don't! So, in the States, met with one of our investors, who's also a friend, had a lot of fun, visited a couple of game shops, bookshop, and a small convention over there. And there is a lot of Pathfinder in the States. D&D 5th has a lot of work to do to catch up there. Really, it was wall-to-wall Pathfinder in this shop they've got called Books A Million, which is kind of equivalent to Waterstones, I guess, but a big one. It was just Pathfinder, Pathfinder, Pathfinder. Games shop, miniatures, board games, miniatures, board games, miniatures, board games, miniatures, board games. Pathfinder! Numenera, little bit, couple of indie games, and otherwise it was all 40k RPG. So, yeah, well, writing for Pathfinder might be a better idea for people than we'd thought. And if 5th Ed wants to get any traction in the marketplace, I think they're going to have a fairly open license, but it remains to be seen what that turns out to be. So yeah, after all that, came back straight to Indiecon. Drove for the first time ever, because it's the first time I've been able to drive while Indiecon's been on. Took a bunch of miniatures and stuff as well that I don't normally do, a few board games and stuff. Played Dust Tactics, which went pretty well. And now that I've got a car, I think I'll take a lot more minis games, because role-playing I do get to do, though not as much as I would like during the year, but minis games, board games, I don't get to do nearly as much as I would like. So conventions present an opportunity. So maybe next year I'll take 7TV, Dust again, maybe something else, maybe even run a campaign of a board game or something. But we'll see. Games I did run, I ran Forever Summer, which is our Chronicle City sort of kids adventures. It's kind of like Goonies meets Erie, Indiana. There's a couple of more modern TV shows with kids in that kind of meet the criteria. I forget what they're called because still half asleep. But yeah, that went really well. The scenario was it was Halloween and they were going out to collect things and trick and treat, but there was something weird going on and they were attacked by chocolate zombies, and that was good fun. I ran a tester of gore. That went really well, and it's amazing how a different and well-developed background can refresh even the most hackneyed or over-familiar scenarios, because the scenario here was basically break into a guy's compound and ruin him. So essentially break in, steal the treasure, but it was just using the gore background made it very, very different. But the system seems to work fine. Everything seemed to go okay. I didn't find any last-minute problems or anything, so it's all full steam ahead. And that's it'll be about 3 months till all the art is in from Michael, and then we should be good to go pretty much straight away. I'm going to write up this adventure and another previous adventure as rewards for that for people, so that's good. I also ran a blood adventure set in 1666 in London, where they managed to stop the devil breaking through into reality. So that was a more structured, standard adventure than Blood. Blood's normally a sort of survival horror, live to the end sort of thing, but this was much more here's a mission, and in some ways that works, and in some ways it doesn't. But yeah, I'm working on a new edition of Blood, along with everything else that I'm doing, and amongst my intentions for that is to do a 1666 version. Way back in 1990, when Blood was originally published, their idea was to create sequels. One of them would have been Hell on Earth, which was like a 1400s through 1700s hammer of witches, basically. So I still want to do something along those lines, and the other sequel that they wanted to do was called Starshock, which would have been a science fiction horror. So at the time that would have just been Alien, really, and a few cheesy low budget flicks. But I think we've had some more interesting ideas in science fiction horror come through since then, especially in video games like Dead Space and so on. So because Blood's meant to be at its heart a fairly generic game, doing homages to these kind of things works. That so look for that at some point in the future. God, I've got so much work to do. So it was Blood, Forever Summer, Gore, Around Dust as well. I ran my fan version of Pacific Rim for Fate, which went really well, and surprisingly well, actually, considering the new Fate is much more abstract than even the old Fate was, which was something that worried me going into doing it. But it worked out fine in the end. And one thing that was really did work really well was that, okay, so you got two people piloting the robot and doing whatever, and that in most games would tend to sideline everybody else because they can't do much. But in this instance, people really got involved and they did things like scan the monster, do research, to create aspects and so on, to tag the scene and help the people in the robot, which was good because they were only piloting a relatively small construction Jaeger and would have probably been panelled otherwise. Angus, my director partner at Chronicle City, was there manning the stand, and apparently did some reasonable sales. I sold a bunch of second-hand stuff that I dragged along to get rid of, about a box worth. I still have a bunch of second-hand RPG materials, so maybe I'll update a list so people can buy off that. He was also selling a load of his old DVDs, so I picked up a bunch of them. He had the old Robin of Sherwood series, which was brilliant and features a relatively young-looking Ray Winston in it. So I bought that for nostalgia purposes, and also found out that Amazon has a box set of Starfleet, these sort of Super Marionation anime series, which hardly anyone seems to remember except me. I used to watch it in black and white on my grandmother's old TV back in the day, so I'm looking forward to that for nostalgia purposes. He also had Versus, which I didn't remember much about, but I remembered seeing a trailer about it and hearing good things about it, so I wanted to see that. Outlander, which is kind of Vikings versus an alien dragon, you might remember it. Not quite enough sci-fi, too many Vikings, but I still liked it anyway, and why not? The second Dune series, Children of Dune, I saw the first series version of it, and I've always been a fan of Dune, the books, and the original weird film, so hopefully that's not rubbish, we'll see. All Rats, brilliant. 9, I prefer the short film version, but it's a good film anyway, so if you haven't seen that, that's good to get. Heavily underrated movie, Last Man Standing, in my opinion. It has Bruce Willis in. And if I was an Australian and I needed a porn film name, it would be Bruce Willis. But yeah, heavily underrated film, based on Yojimbo, sort of, if I remember correctly. Bubba Hotep, which we watched ages ago and loved. Again, heavily underrated comedy horror film. And he had The Italian Job, which I've been meaning to pick up for ages for obvious reasons. Otherwise, I bought the Fate System Toolkit. I don't particularly like giving Evil Hat money because they're dicks, but sometimes you just gotta swallow your pride. And that goes for the Fate dice that they sponsor or involved in, however they're involved in it as well. They're the best ones, in my opinion. I also picked up these, which I think were originally called Lug and Trug. But what they basically are is adventures as fantasy films. So if you imagine, instead of sitting down to watch, I don't know, Krull or something, you and your mates pick up one of these, and it's basically a playthrough adventure. You can think of it like a kind of, in the same way you would Lady Blackbird, in that it's a set scenario, pre-gens and everything, but they're really fun and they're a good read and they're cheap, and we sell them, shill. We sell them at Chronicle City, so buy those. I've been thinking, actually, speaking of shilling, that a Gamergate fiasco scenario might be fun. Otherwise, I also picked up Rifts. Rifts is full of great ideas, but has a really shit system. So they've been kind of paranoid about rules conversions and so on being put online in the past. But I had a quick whiz around Google, and they seem to be a bit more relaxed about it these days. So my thought is, since my Pacific Rim conversion played really well, that maybe a fake conversion of some of the Rifts material might be a fun thing to do as a side project, like I don't have enough legitimate work to do. So there's that. And I picked up Doctor Who, because I gave away my shiny boxed version to a friend who is an enormous, gigantic, huge Whovian to the nth degree. Hi Tim. I'm thinking I might need to do more with the system I did for Irrepressible, because it just works and lots of ideas seem to fix that. And the last thing I picked up at Indiecon from Leisure Games, who are awesome and from whom you should buy all your stuff, is Zombicide, which I'd heard good things about for ages, but somehow never got around to picking up, probably because I don't have that many opportunities to play board games. It's cooperative, which has become a big deal for us. So I bought up that and the prison set. It's also made me think that I would like to make my own adventures and characters and stuff for that. And looking around online at places like RPG Now, if you look up Dark Mook, they do great paper miniatures which would really fit into that game, like no problem whatsoever. And there's lots of cardstock stuff that you could use there as well from other publishers to replace the little flat cards and things they've got in there. It would just enhance the game, I think. And if you wanted to make your own boards, it's about 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters, which is very, very roughly 10 inches by 10 inches. Unfortunately, Imperial versus Metric is a problem, but if you go to gamecrafter.net, their 10 by 10 inch board should just about be compatible with Zombicide. So if you wanted to make your own boards and things, that's a good way to do it, and that's something that I'm thinking of doing myself, because I did some maps and stuff for adventures, and that was all good. What was also good about Indiecon is a lot of people came up and shook my hand for my involvement in Gamergate, or just to express happiness that I was still alive, which was a bit weird, because depression and upset becomes so familiar and so normal that you kind of, in your own head, it doesn't sink in that you've done anything particularly dramatic or noteworthy or so on. So it's like, what? Huh? Glad I'm still here. What do you mean? Oh yeah, I nearly killed myself. Oops. Yeah. So thank you everyone for being supportive and rad and lovely to me in person, which is a nice reminder that people can be lovely in person, whereas on the internet a lot of them are dicks, quite frankly. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. I'm going to take a few days much needed rest, because I'm so tired, and then I'll be back to work, getting everything done in short order, hopefully. And then hopefully I can take some more time off in December, which is my birthday. I doubt I'll be at Dragon Meet this year, because we don't have a stall and it would only be going in order to spend money. So if you're expecting to see me at Dragon Meet, it ain't gonna happen. So sorry for that. Anyway, toodle pip everyone. Have a good one. Ta-ta.